That was a great talk, Cherie. First, I just want to say thank you for allowing all of us space to think about our stories and how we can speak up. And thank you all for staying until the end, almost the end, to hear mine. I really appreciate seeing so many faces still here this late in the evening. Expectations, validation, judgment, blame, bias, labels, hierarchy. These are the lines that divide us. And another line that divides us, that has no age, gender, sexual orientation, or race, is the line between success and failure. I have a lifetime of experience living on the side of the line that's failure. And I love failing. I love it so much that sometimes I fail on purpose. People talk about being afraid of failure. Not me. I am like, yes, give me more. But that's not what I was taught. I was taught success is over here and failure is over there. And there's something in the middle that separates the people who are successful from the people who are failures. I've spoken to hundreds of people on both sides of this line. And what you'll hear, or what I heard, from the people who felt like failures, they told themselves, I'm not good enough. I should have tried harder. That was so dumb. There's no point. And when I talk to the people over here who are successful, I asked them how they felt. They said, I'm not good enough. I should have tried harder. That was really dumb. There's no point. And so if this is true, the people who are successful feel the exact same things that the people who are failing feel, and we're all on the side of the line that's failure. I realized that I was on that side of the line for the first time when someone asked me, who are the 5 most influential people in your life? As I stood there and took a mental note of all the names, I realized they're all negative. I'm going to tell you about 2 of them. The first most influential person in my life was my ex-boyfriend, who was a little emotionally abusive. And the first time I realized he was abusive was after he had kicked me out of the house 5 times. Albert Einstein says the definition of insanity is to do the same things over and over again and expect different results. I don't know what results he was expecting. So the 6th time he kicked me out of the house, on Christmas Eve, I had nowhere to go, I had no friends, and I couldn't afford to make it on my own. I left. I grabbed my car keys, grabbed my purse, tears streaming down my face, thinking, what store or restaurant or coffee shop is open at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve? I came up with nothing. Then I thought, who can I call to help me? I called 3 people. The first person I called was a best friend who lived about 2 hours away. And she didn't answer the phone, but it was Christmas Eve, so I didn't expect her to. The second people I called were her parents, who lived half a mile away from me. I had known them for about 10 years, I met them in college. They answered the phone, and I was crying, and I said, I need help. I don't know what I need. I think I just need to come to your house and sit in your basement. I won't make a noise. I don't want food. I don't want to ruin your Christmas. I just want to know that there are people on the other side of the wall that are there. I don't need you to do anything. And my friend's mom said, can't you call your parents? My parents lived thousands of miles away. They weren't going to help me with what I needed help with that night. But I called another friend. Well, he wasn't a friend at the time. He was a coworker. The only reason I had his phone number in my phone was because one day at work we had traded a day, and I asked him, hey, can you pick up this shift for me because I have a thing? And so he answered the phone, and at this point I couldn't even speak. He said hello, and I said, and he said, come over, I'll text you my address. So I spent Christmas Eve with him and his partner. They sang Christmas carols. I cried on the couch. They didn't ask me what was wrong. They didn't need to know. That was the day I decided I was not going to be insane anymore. I was changing my life. And 30 days later, I moved to New York City. But this wasn't the first time I had met someone influential who had changed my life forever. I'm also divorced. And my ex-husband taught me a couple of things. The first thing he taught me was that I don't have to do the washing, clean the house, buy all the groceries, and go to work, and take care of the dog, make sure the dog gets its vaccines, make sure the dog gets walked at 5 in the morning. I don't have to do it all, because even when I was doing it all, he was cheating on me. So we got divorced. He also taught me that when I look back on my life and I think about my wins and my losses, my successes and my failures, they are the same thing because they're teaching me the same lessons from different perspectives. So if we're all on the side of the line that's failure and we try harder, imagine for a moment that line, it's not a glass ceiling. It's not a wall that you have to break through. It's a rubber band. And when you try harder, you bounce up into it and you hit resistance. And it pushes you back down to feeling like you're not good enough. So you buy that fancy car you've always dreamed of driving. You feel like you've failed. You move into that house that you've dreamed of living in, and you still feel like you failed. You get promoted at work, and you still feel like you're not good enough. And we do this over and over again until we realize the problem is not the amount of effort we're putting into it. We are trying really fucking hard. The problem is we're on the wrong side of the rubber band. And when we accept that success and failure are the same thing, and they are teaching us the lesson from two different perspectives, we move to the other side of the rubber band. And then what happens? We fall down into it, and it propels us forward into limitless success, like a slingshot. So, almost as much as I love failure, I also love men. Thank you to all of the men for being here today at a women's event. Woo! Yeah, let's give a round of applause for the men. So there are a lot more men in my life who have made a positive impact than negative. And the first time I was actually open to that was the day I decided to leave my ex with my car keys and my purse. and moved to New York City. But I didn't come up with that decision on my own. I called my dad, and I asked him for help. I had never asked for help before in my life. I didn't know how to do it. And I called him and I said, Dad, I need help, but it's not what you think. I don't want money. I'm not moving home. Don't fly out here. But I'm leaving where I live. I'm quitting my job, leaving my relationship, turning my whole life upside down. I don't know where to go, though. And he said, the Tara I know doesn't let anyone tell her what to do. So if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go? And I said, New York City, but how could you ask me a question like that at a time like this? And then I said, oh, I'm supposed to go there. And he said, yeah, you should go to New York. I think it's crazy. People are mean, it's expensive, it's dirty. But if that's where you want to be, then that's where you should go. So I packed up 2 suitcases and I went to New York City. And I stayed with a friend and slept on her IKEA couch. And I took a temp job with no job title, making the least amount of money I had ever made, second only to the job that I took to be with the man who made me feel trapped in his home. And this was my view every morning when I woke up. And with the sunrise every morning shining through my window, I thought, this is my second chance. This is my third chance. This is my 4th chance to do things differently than I've done in the past. Every single morning was a fresh start, and I was so happy to be there, even though my back hurt because IKEA couches are not comfortable. And so I started meeting men who became positive influences in my life, and I want to tell you about them. The first one I met was also my first coach. I didn't know coaching was an industry, and so I met him and I was like, oh my gosh, I found someone who's like this incredible person who's going to change my life, and nobody else knows about coaches. I've got a life coach. I felt pretty special. So it was about 3 weeks into coaching together, and we had phone calls, not video. We didn't meet in person. He lived somewhere else. I don't even remember where. And our 3rd coaching session, he said, Tara, I have to tell you something. You don't love yourself. And I felt the wind knocked out of me. I was speechless. And I'm a woman of many words. I can't even be on Twitter because I run out of characters before I get to the point. So me being speechless is a big deal. And I started crying. And I thought, I've been wearing a mask my entire life for 31 years. And this man saw right through it. And he doesn't even know what I look like. And that was the day I decided I was going to love the shit out of myself, because if he saw it, then everyone else was seeing it too, and I was not hiding anything. The next man I met is the reason I started a business. He was running a $50 million company at the time, and we were having a conversation. I don't remember what it was about, and he said 3 words that changed my life forever. He said, people like us. And I was like, what do you mean people like us? I'm just a nurse. And he said, visionary entrepreneurs. And that was one of the moments when I realized that I needed to start seeing myself the way that everyone else was seeing me. The next person I met was a man at a bar. It's not a love story. I took myself out for dinner for one of the first times ever by myself. Started taking myself out on dates. And I was sitting at the bar having dinner, and this man sits down next to me. And I found out he's a keynote speaker, he runs a business, and he started asking me questions about myself. And at the time, I thought, I'm going to go to grad school, and I'm going to get my master's degree, and then I'll add more letters after my name, and that's the answer. I'm going to keep climbing that ladder. And he said, what's something that you're really good at that people ask you for advice about all the time? And you love doing it, and you don't even have to think about it. It just comes naturally to you. And I told him a lot of things. I listed off the last 5 people that I helped do something. And he said, you can charge money for that. And I was like, really? I've been doing it for free my whole life. And he was like, no, that's a business. So that was the day I decided I was going to start charging money for advice. And he said, you have to pay attention to the thing that comes naturally to you, because it doesn't come naturally to everyone. And it's easy for you, so you miss it. But it's not easy for everyone else. And so it's not the same thing as taking the easy way out. You don't have to make your life so hard. 2 months later, I started my coaching practice, coaching women in leadership positions. And 2 months after that, I met another man. I met Dr. Oz. When a friend introduced me to the executive producer and said, you need to be on this show. And I was like, my business is only 2 months old. I only have a handful of clients. I'm still working as a nurse. I don't have time to be on the Dr. Oz show. Like, do I even have enough vacation time to do this? And she was like, call in sick, go be on the Dr. Oz show. So I met him. He's an amazing man, super nice, friendly, and I was almost on the Dr. Oz show. So I was mic'd up. I was standing there waiting to be called out. I was the last segment of the day. And the producer comes out, and I think, okay, they're coming to get me. I had no idea what I was going to say. I had never been on TV. Well, that's a lie. I've been on TV before. I used to live in Scotland. And I probably shouldn't say this, but I was on the Michael Barrymore show when I was really young. And I know he doesn't have the best reputation, so people have told me not to tell anyone that story. But now you know. Speaking my truth. And so, anyway, I go down rabbit holes. I'm not a woman of few words. So I was almost on the show, and the producer comes out, and she says, we are so sorry, but we ran out of time, and we had to cut your segment. And is there anything we can do? And Oprah had been there that morning. I swear I manifested Oprah. I was like, I just want to meet Oprah. Like, I love Dr. Oz, but I don't really care about being on the show because I don't really feel like I deserve to be here. But I really want to meet Oprah. So they were so sweet. They sent me Oprah's cookbook and a gift card for a blowout, which was really nice. So I was almost on the Dr. Oz show. And after that, I got obsessed with publicity. And I was like, how can I do this on purpose? Because that was a total accident. And I was featured in the media every 2 weeks for an entire year after that. So the next person I met was my photographer. And he actually introduced me to the editor of Huffington Post, and I became a regular contributor. That was 2 months later. And the next man I met was my lawyer, who was helping me get a restraining order against my abusive ex, because he had been stalking me for 2 years this entire time. And as I was telling that lawyer my story, he looked at me and he said, why did you choose to move in with a man like that? And instead of getting mad at him and thinking he was insensitive, I was like, you know what? You're right. I had a choice. Before I moved across the country and moved in with that guy, I knew I couldn't afford to leave. I knew it was a bad idea. I was running away from my old life that I was tired of, but I didn't know what I was running to. And I ended up running towards something that was worse. And that was the day that I felt empowered to choose the people I spend my time with. I chose to see people for who they really are when they tell me who they are, instead of looking at their potential. Like, my ex had a lot of potential. And that was the day I decided I had a choice to change my entire life. I had a choice to change my story. I had a choice to live differently. And I had a choice in that moment to stand up for myself and to file for that restraining order. And the next man that I met that changed my life was a mentor who's running a company that's worth $200 million. And he said, never give up. Do something that you would run through walls to make successful. Because if you're not willing to run through a wall for it, then you're not passionate enough about it to make it work. And so if we go back to that rubber band, and we all move to the side of the rubber band that is success, and we move beyond those lines that divide us, we realize there are no ceilings, there are no walls, and we have more than enough for everyone to just let go. Thank you.